and happy Mental Health Monday. So this is part 2 of my anti-anxiety routine series, and if you haven't seen part 1 yet, you can do that below, or you can also find the link for that down in the video description as well. In part 1, I talked about sort of the 5 steps that I go through when I'm feeling anxiety, either just sort of low-grade anxiety or all the way up to really intense anxiety. And the last step of that process is sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. So this video today is I'm just breaking down that final step a little bit further, particularly for the days when it's hard and it requires a little bit more work to reduce that anxiety or break out of it completely. So that final step is once I figured out where the anxiety is coming from, it's time to break myself out of that by stopping that negative loop of thinking and then choosing something more positive. And some days, as I said, that's easy. It's as simple as just thinking the opposite of what's been going around and around in my head and causing me anxiety. Like, I'm doing so much to support my health and my healing. There's no way that cancer can come back. Or I'm excited about my day because blank. But of course, it's sometimes much easier said than done. So when that happens, there's a process I follow that I have personally found helpful. Hopefully you find it helpful as well. So the first thing that you want to do is to identify what your automatic thoughts are about the situation. And those are thoughts that we have without really consciously thinking them. They just like pop into our heads automatically when we're triggered. And a lot of the time, when we let our anxiety get the better of us, it's because we aren't recognizing and stopping these automatic thoughts. We're not stopping and questioning them and as to whether they're actually true or not. And then over time, they just become habituated in our minds and they just become our patterns of thinking, and it just perpetuates the anxiety even more. So the first thing is to identify what those automatic thoughts are. So mine are more like automatic feelings as opposed to automatic thoughts. If I go back to my morning example, that's more like this feeling of when I think about like getting out of bed and starting my day, I'll get this wave of just stubborn refusal in the pit of my stomach. It's almost like, it's like a combination of dread and just stubbornness. It's just like, I'm convinced that it's going to be a terrible day. And I think that goes back to the day I was diagnosed. I didn't have a lot of anxiety about it. Everyone was very reassuring about my scans. So when I went for the biopsy, I was really not worried about it at all. And so when I went to get my results, again, I was very unconcerned. So the day started off very normally for me. I went to work. I wasn't really thinking about it. And so if a normal working day like that can turn into the day I was diagnosed with cancer, like I said in the last video, then I think there's a part of my mind that is worried that any day could then turn into like the worst day of my life. So I think that's why mornings have become so particularly anxious for me. So my automatic thoughts, then, if I put words to those automatic emotions, my automatic thoughts might be something like, this is going to be a terrible day, something awful is going to happen, I have so many things to do, I'm so overwhelmed, I really don't want to do what it is I have to do today, mornings are the worst, this day is going to be the worst. And what I realized when I started practicing this, identifying the automatic thoughts, is that I was having these thoughts and emotions before I had even thought about what it was that I had to do today. So it was just my brain assuming that I had all this stuff to do that was going to be super overwhelming, and assuming that like something terrible was going to happen and it was going to be a terrible day. And they just become habit, and our brain gets in the habit of repeating them immediately, like as soon as we wake up or as soon as we're triggered, whatever our trigger is for our anxiety. And so often when we actually stop and think about it, again, with this morning example, I'm I'm not actually that overwhelmed about my day. I don't actually have that many things to do. Sure, there might be some things that I'm not super stoked about doing, but it's not everything in my day. There's lots in my day that I'm really excited about, but my brain has just been habituated to have this like automatically anxious reaction to waking up in the morning. And so stopping and questioning, challenging those automatic thoughts can be really, really helpful for rewiring your brain into a new, more positive habit. So to help you figure out what those automatic thoughts are, because sometimes we're like, so they're so automatic, we're so unaware of them that we don't even know what they are. So you can ask yourself things like, what was I thinking about, or what was I doing right before my mood changed? Or what is the worst thing that could possibly happen today? Or what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of happening? And so that answering those questions, especially the what was I thinking or doing right before my mood changed, that one in particular can be really helpful for figuring out what those automatic thoughts are. And once you know what they are, then you can challenge them. You can think about, okay, is this really true, or what is actually true about this situation? So the next thing to know is that there are two kinds of worries or anxieties. So we worry about things that we can do something to solve or prevent or improve. And then we worry about stuff that we really can't do anything to predict or solve or stop. So after we've identified the automatic thoughts, the next thing is to say, okay, are these thoughts about something that I can actually take action on right now to improve the situation or solve the problem in some way? Or are these more like general amorphous worries about just like bad stuff in general happening in the future that I really can't predict or control or solve? Like, what if and something bad happens to my partner at work? What, one day my mom will die, that's gonna suck. Or what if cancer comes back someday? So if I identify it as something that I can improve, a worry or an anxiety that I actually can take concrete action to improve right now, then I do that. So to go back to my example of the morning, I will tell myself more positive things. So I'll say, if I've been telling myself this day is awful, I do not want to go to that appointment, it's going to suck. Like if I've been telling myself all these negative automatic thoughts, I'll challenge those automatic thoughts with a conscious thought that is more positive or the opposite of whatever that negative automatic thought was. So that it would be something like, that my to-do list is totally something I can handle, or I might not be excited to go to this appointment, but I can listen to my favorite podcast on the way there, and I can get a yummy coffee or a healthy treat on my way home. And often I'll just start listing or reminding myself of the things in my day that I'm looking forward to or excited about doing. Like, I'll get to hang out with Jesse tonight and make a nice dinner and just chill. Or, I know that I'm going to get to dedicate, an hour or 2 hours to writing today, and that's really awesome. So then it makes the things that I am not excited about in my day, it makes them seem less daunting, because it makes me realize, okay, it's not the entire day that I'm going to find like overwhelming and or difficult. It's just, one aspect of it, and, I can handle that one thing. And then I get to do all these other like things that I really like to do, or that I'm going to enjoy doing at least a little bit more than, going to that appointment or whatever it is that's making me anxious. And then I sort of naturally just make a plan for the day that helps to counteract the anxiety. So if it's an appointment that I'm not excited about going to and that's giving me anxiety, I will say, okay, I can listen to my favorite podcast, I can listen to music that I love, or I'll get to see that nurse that I really enjoy talking to. And then I'll make myself a really yummy matcha latte when I get home, or I'll stop in the park and read for a little bit on the way. That's on the way home. That'll be my reward. Or if it's just like my day in general that I'm feeling overwhelmed about, like I have a lot to do, making a list always helps. And I know that's not everyone's thing, but for me, making a list and not necessarily prioritizing, but organizing, I'm going to do this first and then this and then this. It helps me to look at the day as a whole and say, okay, right, okay, I don't have a million things to do. I only have like, 3 things that I really want to get done. And if I get anything else done on top of that, that's just extra and that's gravy. So it just helps me be a little more realistic and, again, challenge that automatic negative thought. And then that often takes the overwhelm away, or at least reduces it to like a manageable level. And then if it's something that I can't take any action on right now to solve, prevent, predict, then I crack out my like hardcore anxiety toolkit. For me, it's always cancer. Cancer anxiety, health anxiety, illness anxiety. You can do everything in your power to stay healthy, but we all know there's always that little voice in our head that says like, nothing is a guarantee. Nothing is for sure. It could come back. So yeah, dealing with that voice and the anxiety it creates is pretty difficult some days. So I have a whole video series on things you can do to handle recurrence, fear of recurrence. So you can view that below, and then there's also a link to it down in the video description. So there's tons of ideas in there, but it's things like meditations and EFT tapping. I have playlists for both of those on the channel, so you can find the links below in the video description as well. It might be, journaling, going for a walk in nature, reading, watching an episode of something funny, something that makes me feel good. Calling my mom or my sister or my partner if he's not home, and just like having a nice, normal, regular conversation that has nothing to do with cancer and can just, sort of distract me from those thoughts. Guided visualizations can be really, really good. Using mantras and mantra meditation in particular, for me, that's a really great one. I have videos about that as well on the YouTube channel. Just search mantra meditations on the Solis YouTube channel. And then if it's really bad anxiety, a really bad day, just really in a rut, I will give myself a break as much as I can. I'm lucky in that my working schedule is quite flexible and I don't have kids. So usually I can pretty easily give myself a break for the day and just focus on fun stuff that I like to do, that brings me joy, that makes me smile. I know that's not as easy for everyone, but just as much as you can, give yourself a break and say, okay, today I'm just doing stuff that makes me feel good. It can be literally anything that makes you smile. Cooking, baking, taking a nap, playing with your kids, playing with your pet, watching your favorite show, doing, your hobbies that you like, painting, drawing, coloring books, paint by numbers, whatever makes you smile, whatever brings you joy. Focus as much of your time as you can on those activities if your anxiety is really, really, really bad. And then, those steps usually give me just usually sometimes I can totally break out of my anxiety by following those steps. Sometimes, again, like I said, it's a little bit more difficult, but that will at least give me enough positivity that I can find it much easier to challenge those negative automatic thoughts and choose new, more positive ones instead. And the more positive you start feeling, the easier it gets to focus on those positive thoughts. Like, I'm doing so much for my health. All of the best, most amazing days of my life started out totally normal, so this could be another, a most amazing day in my life. All my blood tests look good, and there's no reason to think that cancer is coming back. I'm doing so much to support my health. And then it just kind of snowballs. The more you think of them, the more occur to you, and then the more positive you start to feel. So even if those thoughts don't feel true at first, keep saying them, keep thinking them, keep choosing them, and what we think determines how we feel. So the more you think them, the more positive you will start to feel, and then the easier it will become, as I said, to focus on those thoughts. And the truer they will start to sound. It will just become more easy to believe that they are true, because they are true. And even if all of this doesn't completely eliminate my anxiety, it will at least reduce it, to a hum. so that it's, more just background noise. It's not preventing me from getting on with my day. It's not preventing me from what I need to do. And most importantly, it's no longer, I can bring it up to a point where it's no longer causing me despair and upset and those like really much heavier negative feelings. This lightens it enough that I can break out of that. So just to recap that last step quickly, the first thing is to identify the automatic negative thoughts you're having that are causing you to spiral into anxiety. And then the next thing is to determine if they are thoughts or problems that you can take action on to improve or solve right now, or if they're not, if they're just sort of general amorphous thoughts about something bad happening in the future. For me and for many of you watching, I'm sure that's probably cancer coming back. And then if they are thoughts or problems that you can do something about, then you want to choose more positive thoughts by just thinking sort of the opposite of what you have been thinking in those automatic negative thoughts, or just thinking about things that are exciting about your day instead of focusing on the things that you're not so happy about, or even making a list. For me and all those list makers out there, making a list of things you can do to tackle the problem, tackle your tasks, so that it takes the overwhelm out of it a little bit. You can actually look at it objectively and know that it's not quite as overwhelming as your negative automatic thoughts are making you believe that it is. And then if it's not a situation that you can actually do anything to solve or prevent or predict even, then just crack out that mental health toolkit, whatever works for you. For me, that's always meditating, journaling, walking, whatever makes you happy, brings you joy, calms you down, reduces that stress, whatever that is for you. So that's what you can do if it's not something that you can tackle right away. And then once you've reduced that anxiety and that stress a little bit with some of those tools, then you can start trying to think those more positive thoughts. Because as soon as you feel even just a little bit more positive loops of thinking will start to sound more true and will be easier to believe than the negative automatic thoughts that you've previously been thinking. And soon, hopefully, those positive loops will become your new habit instead of those negative ones. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the Solis YouTube channel. There should be a little Solis logo down in one of the corners. And check out the YouTube channel in full because, as I said, there's lots and lots of stuff on there. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful rest of your Monday, and I will see you back here soon for another MHM. And in the meantime, happy healing.